Hi guys, story recaps here. Today, I am going to explain a 2015 British horror film called Howl. Please try to like or dislike the video, it is important to us. Watch out and take care. As the film begins, we see Joe, a train ticket collector. He had a troubled expression on his face at the time. He expected to be promoted, so it is the cause behind his worry. However, he is not promoted. Instead, one of his co-workers is promoted. Joe is not promoted because he is not as skilled as his colleague at collecting fines from passengers. Because his co-worker was a naturally rigid person. He had little trouble collecting penalties from passengers, either. Then there's Ellen, who works as a tea trolley girl on the railroad. And Joe used to like her. But he never expressed his thoughts to her. Joe had to work the night shift tonight due to a scheduling conflict. His colleague had taken a leave of absence for a valid reason. Joe collects the passengers' tickets as the train departs. There was a nasty girl among the passengers, and Joe did not approve of her behavior. Joe attempts to collect the ticket from another girl, but she does not have one. Joe then asks for the fine to be paid. But that girl says, "I had brought the ticket as per routine. And my ticket has been lost somewhere." Then Joe says, "You will have to pay fine at any rate. It is according to the traveling rules and you cannot violate the rule." Joe holds his seat after collecting the tickets of all passengers. It was raining outside. Joe falls asleep while sitting on his seat. Train is halted. Train driver tells, it is halted because there has been something wrong with the train. Coming outside the train, driver notices that a deer is dead after being crushed under the train. And it is the cause of the breaking down of a train. Driver tries to get the deer out from railway line. Then he senses someone's presence behind the bushes. When driver turns himself to check, then bushes were swaying fastly. Then driver is attacked by a horrific animal. That animal's figure was revealing that it is not exactly an animal, but a werewolf which is half man and half wolf. It means, he was such a human being who has converted into a wolf. On the other side, Joe thinks in the train that driver had gone outside a long time ago. And he still has not returned back. Joe tries his best to explain to all passengers that train is out of order. And drive has not come back yet. Hearing him, all say that we should also go outside. One of the men says, it is quite possible that we may get connected with the network at a little distance. And we may call help for us. But Joe forbids them to do as such. Because it was perilous and his job may be at risk due to this. All passengers getting together force Joe to go outside. At last, he agrees with them. He opens the lock using his key. All passengers begin to come outside one by one as the train door opens. And they were gradually moving forward. Going at a distance, Joe discovers the dead body of driver. Driver's body had been mutilated. And his all intestines were appearing out. When Joe and Ellen see it, they are terrified. And they both escape the scene. They also request that all other passengers board the train. They claim that this location is unsafe for them. However, it is a dangerous region. Then the sound of wolves howling can be heard. And the werewolf was hurriedly approaching them while roaring. The train's last passengers board one by one. However, a lady's leg remained outside. Then there's werewolf, who makes his way there as well. And it lifts up and crushes down that lady. Regardless, those passengers are successful in bringing that lady inside. However, she was severely injured after being bitten by a werewolf. They bandaged her wound right away. Everyone is terrified after seeing her in such a state. Joe asks for assistance, but receives no response. There was a conceited young man. Outside there is a very deadly beast, he warns everyone, we can also confront them. And a woman who has been bitten by a werewolf, claims that it is not an animal because its shape is not like that of animals. His figure, however, resembles that of humans. But no one believed her, because they believed she was in shock after witnessing werewolf. As a result, she is stating as such. They also perceive sounds coming from the other direction of the train. And they recognize werewolf as soon as he enters the train cabin. Joe and his two boys proceed to check, and they discover that the noise is coming from the restroom. There was also a passenger in the restroom. And the wound on the lady who had been bitten by a wolf was getting worse. One of the passengers' phones rings after a while. And there was a female traveler with a ringing phone. When that female answers the phone, she begins to tell us that we have gotten ourselves into some problems. and the odds are stacked against you. Meanwhile, Werewolf drags that girl along with him and murders her, shattering the train glass in the process. Everyone takes their seats, terrified. One of the passengers, an elderly gentleman, educates them on how to deal with werewolves. And what will be done about it? They hold the placed axes. They seal the train's windows and doors with heavy items from the train. That lady has begun to act strangely. Her spouse expresses his gratitude to Joe by taking water for her. The lady then vomits blood. Her teeth have also fallen out as she vomits. She is now afflicted because a werewolf has bitten her, claims that selfish guy. They claim that this is not the case. Joe then notices that one of the passengers has vanished. He was the same person who was in the lavatory before, and he is still in the lavatory now. Joe approaches the lavatory and asks him to exit as quickly as possible, because Werewolf was just at the top of train. Then, while washing his hands in the restroom, that individual does not receive any water. Werewolf suddenly enters the train and kills that man. Joe had come to save that man, who was now dead. As a result, Joe begins to focus on other people while attempting to save his own life. The door, however, was shut. Joe sees the werewolf for the first time, and it's a terrifying sight. When he sees him, he loses his senses. And he's bothered. While the werewolf is about to attack Joe, the other passengers save him by opening the door. They then shut the train door behind them. That werewolf enters because he is strong. They get together and kill the terrifying werewolf. They notice a worn ring in Werewolf's hand. They get the impression that this werewolf was once a human. And he became a werewolf for no apparent reason. It indicates he became a werewolf after being bitten by another werewolf. The selfish guy then reminds everyone that the werewolf had also bitten that lady. It implies that she, too, will be converted into a werewolf. As a result, we should put an end to it. Because she is infected. Then Werewolf comes into life again. It starts howling incessantly. Joe, who is enraged, attacks the head of the werewolf and kills it. Hearing the howling, that lady begins to act strangely. Then a forest scene is shown. Many other werewolves are known to exist in the forest. That self-centered guy begins to kill that lady. Then all fastened him, setting him aside. They also fasten that lady along with him, so she may not harm them after transforming into werewolf. There is a young man who works as a mechanic. When he was going to start the train, he said, "There is an oil leak in the train, thus it has halted." He says, "With my friend, I'll go fix that oil leak. If the signal turns green here, the train has repaired for a travel." The train is being repaired outdoors by that guy and his friend. When the mechanic locates the source of the oil leak, he begins to repair it. That mechanic's friend hears the voice of someone in the forest. And that voice was indicating as someone is in trouble and asking for help. And that boy alone moves to that forest to help. On the tree, there was a dead body of a boy who had received a call. He was also being devoured by werewolf. Then he starts fleeing from there. He's surrounded by werewolves as well. They consume him after a botched attempt at killing it. At that location, when that technician was repairing the train, 2 werewolves approach the train. These werewolves peer through the train's windows. That mechanic, on the other hand, folds his legs upward. As a result, he is no longer visible. Joe and Ellen discover a green light has turned on in the train. They promptly begin to start the train and depart from there. They are, however, unaware that the mechanic is underneath the train. And to the backbone, that lady had transformed into a werewolf. That lady, as a werewolf, kills and eats her husband right away. Then a female without a ticket arrives to a location and stands in terror. And a werewolf from the backside also gets him. Instead of assisting her, that self-centered kid abandons her in the hands of werewolves. Because he was not going to be affected by anyone's life or death. Now that wolf lady was about to attack that self-centered after her husband. But, after killing that lady, Joe comes back from the backside and saves his life. A mechanic has once again caused an oil leak in the train. The train has been halted due to a mistake. Ellen inquires of the self-centered boy about the lady he threw in front of the werewolf. And he tells that she had become the victim of werewolf. Now Joe had rescued that self-centered boy. But he leaves, creating havoc for them. There are werewolves all around Joe and Ellen. The mechanic burns the werewolves at the exact moment, utilizing the train's fuel. Joe and Ellen are rescued by him. Both are saved here, but the mechanic becomes a werewolf victim. Joe conveys his heartfelt feelings to Ellen, telling her that he is deeply in love with her. He tells Ellen to get out of here. Ellen was hesitant to leave Joe in this situation because she was worried. Nonetheless, she departs from there. Joe is then attacked by werewolves. When Ellen arrives at the station, she notices a badge with Joe's name on it. That self-centered boy, on the other hand, believes he is safe from those werewolves. He was mistaken, though, because werewolves had arrived from the surrounding area. One of them had turned into a werewolf, and Joe was one of them. After becoming a unit, all of the werewolves slaughter that self-centered boy. And then he dies, which brings the film to a close. Subscribe and turn on the notifications. We daily upload videos like this.